long way to rise.
Yeah. More video, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Without further ado, I'd request Mr. Anil Dharkar to take over the discussion as panelists here on the stage. Thank you so much.
Well, Habil, may I call you Habil?
Yeah, of course. We know each other for so long.
I know. That's a wonderful photograph on the cover.
Thank you.
You're smiling exactly like that.
I'm the same person.
No, but that's one thing I've noticed about you. Whatever the occasion, you always have this very nice smile on your face. And I think that's part of your philosophy of life, to smile, even through adversity. Am I right?
You know, Zalia, my daughter, the other day, and I discovered through Eco Times actually. So she was being interviewed, and she was asked, "What did you learn from your father?" And she said, "Power of calm." Right.
Actually, reading the book, which incidentally is a wonderful book, and all of you should look at it because it seems to be at first sight, and because of the photographs and so on, like a bit of a family book. But I think there are lessons in it for managers, there are lessons in it for entrepreneurs, lessons for it in it for all of us, and wonderfully expressed. So you have the knack of a writer, I must say that, which surprised me because I didn't know that, and pleased me because it makes reading the book.
No, thank you, because it's my first effort, and I don't think I'll continue this like you guys who are professional writers. So I made a lot of effort to write the book because I thought we were completing 50 years of the company, and I thought something, we spent about 50 years in the company, and I thought it's appropriate that I share my experiences, and that's why the book.
Sure. What I found as one of the central themes of the book is your emphasis on family. I think that comes through very, very strongly, right from your father's influence. Even in a decision like going overseas to study, you didn't just apply and go there. I mean, you were put through a kind of an indoctrination process in India. So can you describe that? I went abroad and I just went abroad.
You know, this was some in 60s. I went for my master's program at Purdue, and probably I was the first from the whole big family at that time going out. My mother was very apprehensive. Okay, once I go, I will never come back. Even my father was not sure. So they thought, okay, since I spent 5 years at Ahmedabad studying my pharmacy graduation there, so they wanted to make sure that I have a very firm routine with the family and the country, and so they took me to His Holiness, Sayyidina, which we believe in. So I went there, and he would ask me repeatedly to come. So he asked me to come at 11 at night, and by the time he sees me, and I was the last person at 2 o'clock in the morning. So this I went through 4 or 5 times. Every time I go, he says, "Show me the pictures where you are going," and like that. So, and then he took me around and went through all the religious places so that I get the kind of attachment for the place and the country so that I come back. That's what I went through.
And do you think it had an effect on you? Otherwise,
no, I didn't realize what was happening then. Many years later, I realized what he was doing.
You're being indoctrinated.
Many years later, I realized what he was doing. But honestly, I wouldn't have made a difference to me to come back also, because I never had an intention to stay behind.
The other thing which I think the family did instill in you was a sense of values, all right? Which is something which again goes through the book as the guiding principle of the work you do. Sense of values, fair business practices. And I think that comes through your father, through the family value system. Am I right? Yeah.
No, I honestly believe there are few things which are very important in life. And I have believed in it, and in my difficult times I saw the value of it. Because if you are what you represent all the time, you are credible, you keep your word, and that is what is there. So we always had a practice in our organization early days that suppliers, we give them a date, the checks are ready whether they come or not. And those kind of relationship was there. So when we had a financial crisis in late 9-10, what do you expect? Everybody, all these people try to. On the other, they all helped us in the sense they give longer credit. The bankers came and helped us. So I think we don't recognize when we say the value, we think more as a kind of ethical reason. But from a business perspective, also how the world sees you. And if you can become credible, if your words are counted, so whatever you say in the good times or bad times, it's get accepted.
Let me bring Ranjit and Irshad onto this, because you've known each other, Ranjit especially for many years, and talking about the sense of values. Because today we see a lot of industrialists who are in debt, and in huge debt, and they have no intention of paying back the money. Now, instead of doing that, Habil actually sold off some crown jewels to repay the debts. Isn't that something very different from the normal Indian businessman?
So Anil, you're right. I've known Habil for 25 of these 50 years. And during these 25 years, the pharma industry has gone from, feast to famine, from boom to bust. And all of us go through these cycles. I know that Wockhardt itself has gone through this cycle. But there was this very difficult period, and it clearly shows not only courage of his Odyssey, but his vision and values, that he decided that whatever happens, he's not going to default on what is not his. And I think it is very important, and the family was with him together in all this, even though it was his decision, where he decided that family's crown jewels will be sold off to repay the debt, and it was done. And that is actually a beacon of light and a lesson to many of the other business people on how to deal not only with adversity, but to come out shining. Because as you all know, it's been a success story after that. And from a simple generic manufacturer to become a research-based pharma company is not easy. And as you all know, research costs a lot of money, dedication, and a long-term vision. And Habil has stayed the course. So we all admire him and appreciate what he's done. Richard.
I've known Chairman for the last 2 years. We started our engagement in 2015, so not that too long back. And as I was going through the book, Odyssey of Courage, I could relate with a fair bit that was mentioned there. But the two things that stood out personally for me, basis my experience, has been the unconventional approach that Chairman takes. Right? Our team, a 15-member team, would have thought about something for months together. We would come and present to him, and he would suddenly throw a very different spin that even our technical experts would not have thought through, right? And the vision with which it is presented, it's deeply rooted in logic and insight, right? So I think that's one thing that stood out for me. And one of my favorite chapters in the book, at least, has been the degree of fairness that he's imbibed, right? And very emotional when he talks about succession planning in terms of how he went about doing it, right? Not just on family matters, but even when it comes to dealings, right? With employees, with peers, with subordinates, with associates like us. I think the degree of fairness is something that I truly admire and appreciate. What Chairman always thinks about is a win-win for both the parties, and I think that value system is something that is truly commendable.
Habil, when you were going through those difficult times, did you ever consider defaulting on the loans, and which, as I was saying earlier, so many Indian industrialists do, instead of selling off your very precious properties? Did you ever think of that?
I don't think that idea crossed my mind.
Why is that?
I don't know, I never thought about it, but never crossed my mind. Why? Simply that's not the way I am built.
Yeah, I think that says a lot, that he's actually, even today, he hasn't thought of it. Which, in today's climate, is a very...
Yeah, it's generally, when I have a problem,
Yeah.
I consider look at it from all the angles, 4 or 5 angles, and see which one works best. That's my habit. But since you asked this question, this is something I never thought about.
Brilliant. Just tell us a few of the stories that illuminate the book, because there are a number of decisions you took which were, again, thinking out of the box. One was moving to Aurangabad, for example. You started it off as the worldly chemical company, and then you suddenly decided to go to this backwaters. Why did you do that?
It was quite simple for me at that time, mainly because we had a very small factory here at Burli. We needed a good, proper, modern factory, and I had I didn't have enough money at that time. So the only way I had to go to a backward area where you get a lot of loan from SICOM and government, and that was the reason. And then when I went through all the possibilities, Aurangabad, I liked it because it had a better infrastructure. It had 2 5-star hotels, it had air connection. Plus it was considered backward area, so that's how I went there.
And there was also this, the IPO, when Wockhardt had his first IPO. I think your advisors were saying it should be, number one, that you were overvaluing your company. It was too highly priced. And number two, they wanted you to have it open for a certain number of days. And you stuck to your guns. And then you shortened the period for which the IPO was open. Talk about that.
See, this was early 91, 92, after Narasimha Rao's liberalization. Earlier, government used to fix the price so that it was not worth diluting. Then my thought basically was, what is the value of the company, and people were taking a lot of pride if it is oversubscribed 50 times, 100 times, 200 times, it is good. My view was that I must do it fairly, and it should, and if it is 50 or 100 times oversubscribed, I don't know what is the value of my company and what the value of my shares, so it is highly undervalued. So that is why I had difficulty with merchant bankers and other to suggest a value. I said, the stock market is working at certain PE multiple, I can take 10-20% discount, but you don't ask me to take 50% discount, why would I do that? So it took me quite some time to convince them. The second aspect was, on a hindsight, it was a terrific decision in the sense that our IPO was there, and then the Babri Masjid issue was emerging and supposed to happen on a Sunday. Everybody said nothing is going to happen, and normally you keep issue open for 3 or 4 days. So it was supposed to be there up to Monday or Tuesday. I said, look, Babri Masjid is not under my control, and what is not my control, I don't do it. So I said, you close it on Saturday, even if it is only 1 hour, 1.5 days which is open. And I think if we had kept it, I don't think our issue would have been subscribed because of a whole market collapse.
So that was your instinct.
Instinct of staying in control of what you do. That is my fundamental instinct.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't like to lose control of events, what we do, from business point of view. So that is what happened during the crisis also. We knew the problem, we knew I took the right kind of advice. So that you stay in control still to do it. The moment you lose control, you just don't know where you are heading.
So when you have a situation which is outside your control, how do you deal with that?
I try to bring it under control. Because I believe if there is a problem, there is always a solution. That's my fundamental belief in life. The problem is many times we don't know the problem. And if you don't know the problem, you will never find a solution. If it is a problem, solution may not be easy. You work through all possibility and arrive at an area where you feel reasonably comfortable and you move towards it and do something about it. Because there is always a concept, because if you deal with a lot of areas of uncertainties in life, you create a fear. And fear, I call it like a balloon, which is huge. But when you prick it, it is nothing. So that's how you overcome the challenges and the difficulties you come across in a situation and find some kind of way forward.
Well, Ranjit, you are MD of a very large company, and all your life, as far as I know, you've been an executive. What is the essential difference between you and Habil in that sense? He's an entrepreneur, you're an executive, both in very, very high positions. What is it that differentiates the two of you? You're great friends also. So.
Well, I think Habil has actually defined the difference between entrepreneurs and managers in this book. You know, when you talk of friendship, also what I liked about Habil is that honestly he has no ego at all, because when you go and consult your competitors in the industry, as he talked to Anji Reddy or to Yuko Hamid or Deshpande Gupta, it shows what kind of person he is, where he can talk openly about the challenges of business as you run pharma. We also have been friends and competitors, but we have a very strong cohesion which transcends all these. Managers can also be entrepreneurial in many ways, but as a single entrepreneur, I think you have singularly more freedom to manage business in a direction which you want to go. Because you know, when I was a child, we used to come to Mumbai from Lucknow, where I was born. We always went to Akbarali's, you know. That was the store which you went. It was a different world. And then for him to break away from a family business to a totally uncharted territory is what a true entrepreneur does. And he's been so successful in that. Managers don't do that.
You're talking basically of risk taking, right? Which is what I think makes an entrepreneur different. When you take risks, do you weigh all the consequences, or do you follow your instinct?
See, what appears risk to others may not appear risk to me. That is one thing, because risk is relative. And therefore, as much as you know the information, the knowledge, the issues involved, and I try to de-risk a new situation as much as possible and then go ahead with it. And one of the principles which I have followed all through my life and I continue to follow is you cannot succeed, you cannot grow if you don't do something different, something new all the time. And when you do something different, something new, there is a risk. Others have not done it, or that is a path no one has traveled many times. Or you don't know about that, others may have traveled. So what I generally do, I do something new which is complementary to my known thing or strength. Like, for example, if I want to establish a new technology for API for the first time, or a biotech area, I knew the market, I knew the business, everything, but technology was new. When we went abroad, to UK or US. I knew the business, I knew manufacturing, the market was new. So that's how we have continuously grown and succeeded. And initially what you do is only one or two areas, and when your organization becomes large, you start doing this thing in number of areas. So that is how I used to manage the risk.
So
But every time you don't succeed, sometimes you fail.
Sure. The striking sentence in the book, I don't know if it's your sentence or someone else's, which is failure is the beginning of learning. Which I think is a wonderful sentence. And
No, I always tell people that there are two things in life when you do something. When you succeed, it builds your confidence. That is good. When you fail or you don't succeed, you learn from your failures, and that's also a gain to you.
if and when you fail, you take the blame yourself, or did you find someone in the organization to take the blame?
If somebody comes and tells me for their failure and blames his subordinate, it is unacceptable to me. The leadership must accept their responsibility for failure and success. More for failure than success, I tell you.
So when you're taking these decisions which are fraught with risk, would you consult people like Accenture? Would you consult a friend and competitor like Ranjit? Or would you just trust your instincts?
No, I get information, knowledge, views, opinions from everyone, wherever it is there. But for a specific decision taking, it has to be my own. In terms of risk and otherwise. If I rely on either consultant or a friend or a colleague's decision, it ceases to be my decision. And then I am led, and I am unable to lead.
The next thing I want to go into is, I want to bring both of you in also, which is, you did refer to going overseas, which was a big step, because from being an Indian pharmaceutical, at the beginning of that was the Indian Patents Act of 1970, which probably Ranjit doesn't like, but okay, we want to go on that path. But when you went abroad, you felt through your experience, and you related one or two cases, that it's better to get an Indian manager who may not have the domain knowledge. He may not be an expert on pharma, he may not be an expert engineer or scientist, but he is a good man manager. He knows a bit about finance. But I think the emphasis is on getting an Indian. Now I want to ask both of you, is that true across the board? Because now we see a lot of Indians heading multinational corporations all over the world. What is it that distinguishes us? Can we blow our own trumpets?
So in some sense, I read the book and I saw the instances, or read about the instances where chairman again chose to go with someone who was more aligned to the culture of Wockhardt more than anything else. I think it was less about being an Indian or an expatriate, but it was more about the value systems and someone who understood the Wockhardt culture and philosophy. And in my mind, I think that is extremely critical as a key success factor. I would not be too worried about whether someone is from a local geography or an Indian, but if you need to drive a strategic agenda forward in a region or in a company, there has to be a commonality of the wavelength, and I think completely aligned to Chairman's thoughts on those. I'm not too sure about the finance aspect, because I think it was also because of the experience that Chairman had with respect to derivatives, etc., which made him more cautious in some sense. But yes, when it comes to having that entrepreneurial spirit and alignment of culture and value systems, to me that is the most important thing. And ultimately at leadership positions, it is all about people management. That's the key. I think functional knowledge can be in some sense acquired and gained over a period of time.
And you can always have experts advising you. Ranjit?
So, Indians everywhere. Novartis just appointed an Indian origin person as the head of Novartis worldwide, 41-year-old Vas Narasimhan. But in the reverse, I also have an example when we started our project Arogya, where we distribute and market medicine in the villages in interior. Professor C.K. Prahlad actually gave me an insight. He said, for your first project head, don't appoint an Indian, appoint an expat. I said, this is instinctively wrong because this is a project about villages and he'll be worried about clean drinking water, toilets, facilities. But he said, you take it from me. And we actually appointed a Frenchman who had actually worked in Latin America. And he was adventurous about India. He went to every single village and took it as an adventure. And that worked out very well. So I think it's about competence of managers and attitude and approach. But certainly Indians are, as we all know, very much more adaptable. They emerge into different cultures very easily. And I think Habil's experiment as well has been extremely successful, more than once. So it tells its own story.